All right, so delivery and the whole idea of restaurants, ghost kitchens, and concepts that are moving quickly into the delivery space is really kind of pretty much the rising tide of the entire industry. We're going to dive into that today. My name is Paul Barron, and this is the Barron Report. All right, so when you look at delivery, there are a couple of factors that many operators are kind of faced with right now. One, they're dealing with rising fees, they're dealing with logistical application issues, they're dealing with competition now, and then you have the different service models and business models that are being kind of proliferated across the land, and that's including all the delivery outlets that you have in terms of that last mile. So we're going to dive into this today with the founder of a company called Deliverect, and this is Zhong coming on to us directly out of Belgium. Great to have you on the show, Zhong.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Deliverect, let's get into the concept of what it is. As I understand, you guys have some similarities to what Ordermark is doing, to a kind of a little bit of an extent of what Olo is doing. Tell me a little bit about what differentiates what you guys are doing in the marketplace.
Yeah, although Deliverect only exists for 3 years, we help a ton of restaurants from, not only enterprise restaurants, but also SMB, small, medium, mom and pop restaurants, to help them to sell online, right? What we do is we connect them to all kind of their online channels. So not only to delivery marketplaces like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, and so on, but as well their pickup and even in-store solutions. What makes us really unique is that we have a seamless integration with the operating systems of these restaurants, as we are connecting with a long tail, over hundreds of point of sale solutions. So what does that mean? It's we allow any restaurant to be online, where they don't need to worry about any of these operations, right? During a big shift for restaurant, there's almost a whack-a-mole where they get all these orders on all these tablets, and they need to rekey the orders in the point of sale, send to the kitchen, accept it, and so on. And we streamline that completely. And because of our extensive integrations, especially on the point of sale, that's quite unique.
Yeah. So okay. So there's a handful of point of sale companies here in the U.S. Whether you look at Toast, the likes of, well, let's just use, rather than confuse it, well, let's use Toast for example. Toast has a lot of services integrated into their product. How integrated are you into Toast right now?
Well, we have a ton of other point of sale partners that we work with. In the US, we work with, for example, the guys of Oracle, NCR, Lightspeed, and so on. And why does that make us so unique is that we have a long-term history in this space. Although Deliverect exists for 3 years, we have a couple decade of restaurant experience. Because why my father actually still has a point of sale company for Asian restaurants, and I personally created in 2010 and 11 the first iPad point of sale in Europe, one of the first in the world, right? So that company itself grew in 100 countries, and that's also where Deliverect came out of, because in the last 3-4 years, we really saw a big shift for restaurants going from offline to online. You had this in retail, but then now, especially with the rise of delivery players, you need to have that automation. And what makes it very complex is, in the case of retail, you're talking about single product. Where if we're talking about restaurants, we're talking about complex menus. We're talking about upsells. We're talking about different ingredient level. We are talking about cooking time and so on. So we streamline that completely so that a restaurant can sell without worrying about their operations.
Mm-hmm. All right. So at least here in the U.S., I'm not sure completely about the European market in terms of the point of sale penetration over there, but we have seen a very significant shift in the type of POS systems that are being used, whether it is the Square systems, the Toast type products, most of which are iPad style devices, moving away from the traditional NCRs, Oracle, POSitouch, the physical, touchscreen terminals that are out there or have been out there in the past. Those seem to be sliding by the wayside and moving for or opting for a lot more advanced point of sale systems. When you see that kind of evolution occurring in such a market like the United States, how would vertical integration with what you guys are doing work with those kinds of companies? Could I turn on Deliverect with someone like that if I were to compare you to, say, someone like Ordermark, let's just say, because that would be a kind of a one-to-one.
Yeah, you mentioned Square. For example, Square is a big partner of us. I think what makes us unique is we are really the operating layer for a restaurant to sell online, right?
Right.
Because the difference in a restaurant, when you have a point of sale, you're looking at one set menu with one set of workflows. It's very optimized to the waiter, to the ordering manual rekeying process. And what happens is that in a point of sale, you often have one structured menu, right? That is quite fixed. But once you go online, you're going to see that you have subsets, differences for each of your online channel. It could be that for certain delivery marketplace, you have certain menus, and then for others, you have different ones. To manage these multi-channel online side of it, you need to have a different tool. Because if you would then create all these menus in your point of sale, it's almost not workable because it's two different space. Because your waiter is going to go quite nuts of looking at a point of sale and saying, hey, what menu am I actually looking at? Beside that, online, you need way more info than just the name and the price. You need pictures, you need ingredients, you need all kind of things that we are augmenting and helping the restaurant to run from one solution.
Yeah, so you're essentially making it easier for them to jump to the third-party marketplaces or to maybe an e-commerce, platform being their own. Let's talk about e-commerce integration, since, we do have many operators out there that, try to do their own, whether it's in a homegrown e-commerce or they're utilizing some sort of cloud solution. So essentially what you're doing is giving them kind of a buffer for massaging and managing those menus in a way that it works much better for the digital ecosystem versus the in-store restaurant that's out there that has to deal with wait staff and or prep staff that's using it differently. With those kinds of scenarios, what has been the most, the most popular or the most demand-driven by your customers? Are they wanting more e-commerce interface, or are they wanting more third-party interface?
It's actually both, but what we have seen through the years is that as a restaurant adds new online channels, their top line revenue increases. So, for example, in Deliverect itself, average customer of us pre-COVID, so not now, pre-COVID, grew their top line online revenue by 25% when adopting us, right? Okay. During COVID, it's tripled, quadrupled. And the reason why is if you're using a system like Deliverect, you don't need to care on what online channels you're selling. So it means that you're going to sell not only on the Uber Eats, the DoorDash, the Grubhub, your own website, in-store pickup, but as well, social channels, right? You want to sell maybe on Facebook, Google, and so on. So as you go, the number of channels is growing massively. But if you do not need to worry or care about that side of it, you can just expand and optimize what your kitchen can handle, right? Because at the end of the day, it's often the capacity of the kitchen that defines what the output is. And so we take that all out of their hands and allowing them to focus what they do best, and cooking amazing food.
Yeah. Are you currently integrated in with social media in terms of being able to take an order through social?
Yeah. Yeah, we're working with different partners in different regions to do that. The point I'm talking about is as we grow, as we are just in the starting point of this offline to online transition, you're going to see the number of online channels just increasing, right? It's not unfathomable that you could say to your Google Home and Alexa of saying, hey, give me some sushi, right? Or bring me some beer, or even ice cream, and all of this can be then delivered within 50 minutes to your house. So that's really the future. However, these technology are quite hard for an average restaurant. So we help them to, solve that.
When you look at, Zhong, when you look at the market as it is right now, the United States here, Canada to some extent, let's just say North America in general, we've seen a little bit of slow down now that some or most of the country is moving back into more in-restaurant dining. Now, there are arguments in that that there are, customers that are, they're in kind of that pent-up demand phase where they've been, just unable to go out and eat as much. So there's some pent-up demand potentially there. The question I have is, do you feel like we will continue to see delivery on, whether it's single-digit or double-digit growth over the next year, 2 years, and beyond? Or do you think this is something that we will slowly see kind of self-correct itself back to pre-COVID scenarios? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we are just at the starting point, and we can solve it with two things. One, if you look at any market report, you're going to see that the restaurant to consumer delivery space in the coming 2-3 years is still going to grow with 30 to 40%, right?
Right.
As well, if you know about the dark kitchen space that is exploding, there's a lot of report where, it even says in 2030 it's going to be a $1 trillion business. But even more important, I would say it's the behavior of your end customers, you and me, right? We're all used to ordering instantaneously. And one of the amazing trends that, I don't have the US numbers, but they did a survey in the UK where they asked, for example, 55-year-old people how likely they were going to do delivery. Pre-COVID, only 10% said we ever tried it, and that's all we're going to do. And now they did the survey again, it's 34%. So what this tells you that is that, the population has been, cultivated and are used to order on demand. So that side of it,
you think this is a long-term effect? You think this is a long-term effect? Okay, all right, cool. Are you finding the same kind of data in Europe, in your partnerships in Europe?
We see this across the board. So the reason why we started Deliverect, that's, way pre the pandemic, was globally we saw restaurants, seeing 10, 20, 30% of their total revenue coming from delivery service providers, right? And today that's way more. So it's just a start of that trend, and it's just the normal, I would say, offline to online transition. The only difference is before you had delivery, it was really hard to get hot food in a good quality at a sustainable time or short time to your end customer. And that's something that is possible today, where 5 years ago it was already quite hard.
So DoorDash just here recently kind of restructured the way they're doing business. They've got some vertical integration now. They're offering, online marketing, even potentially e-commerce tools, a whole set of basically vertical application tools for all restaurants, but most likely will address to a lot of delivery-heavy restaurants. When you look at a company like DoorDash, who is currently, obviously in space with Grubhub, Uber Eats, et cetera, how would Deliverect plug into someone who is taking a vertical approach like a DoorDash, who's trying to essentially kind of start to solve all those problems that, other than the fact that, you are kind of married to DoorDash if you don't have the variety. But if you get enough potential market penetration, it's kind of like, hey, if I'm number one on Amazon, I'm going to do really well, versus if I was number one or number five in Walmart shelves or online at Walmart. Same kind of scenario. If I'm not getting the promotion over on Uber Eats, but DoorDash is giving me some specialized treatment as a restaurant through whatever methodology they're going with, how would you apply that to what you guys are doing over there? Obviously, you have a platform that works somewhat, across all channels. How do you see that expansion going?
For sure. I think there's two sides. What we have, our customers are the restaurants, right? We give them control. I think as restaurants are, looking at the online space, they want to have options. They want to have multiple ways of, reaching their end customers. And we still have seen that each time you adopt new channels, it increases your, awareness, your brand visibility, as well your top line sales. Right. So that's one aspect where restaurants still, even if you have one system, we are great partners of DoorDash, they have an amazing system, but restaurants still want to have multiple options to sell. And we provide them that one interface instead of them doing it in DoorDash, in Uber Eats, in Grubhub, and so on. Right? Second thing where you also see is the rise of virtual brands. So the complexity you're talking about is not just limited to one platform or one solution. It's more the multi-channel aspect of it.
Yep.
A lot of restaurants today, due to the pandemic, they have been experimenting with, hey, I'm a sushi restaurant. I have one sushi brand. Well, I can also make poke bowls. Let's launch a poke brand, right? So even if they're on one, delivery channels, they have multiple brands in increasing the complexity of it. So we help them, a lot of these restaurants as well, dark kitchens also solve that side of it. So although there's more vertical integration, I think the future is still quite bright for us as you see these restaurants opening more channels and more experimentation with brands.
Right. Well, we did a video not here long ago for all of you guys watching this. Make sure and check it out. It was us on our predictions of the restaurant industry getting back to about 1.3 trillion here in the U.S., which we were at around $1 trillion in 2019. Obviously, the hit occurred. We anticipate 2020 is going to come in. I haven't seen the final numbers, but it's probably about 20% less when you look at where the market was. And that's potentially going to grow because of the potential here with virtual brands and ghost kitchens, dark kitchens, et cetera. With the data that you're seeing with customers that are signing up for the Deliverect services, are you finding more dark kitchens, ghost kitchens, or virtual brands that are living inside other restaurants? What's kind of the scale of growth if you were to say, hey, we kind of have to watch out for a particular channel here? Is it going to be existing restaurants dealing with real estate and all those kind of things and having to turn on other opportunities? Or do you see the logistics applications kind of flowing into these dark kitchens and ghost kitchens becoming kind of the new trend for new unit growth?
Well, today we saw a lot of existing restaurants adopting multi-brand. And that's mainly also due to that they don't have so many walk-in customers or where they're focusing on online. Right. But as you go, you do see these restaurant owners thinking, hey, we can expand their brand. So they're setting up often, flagship stores in bigger cities where, when you come in, you have the full experience of, the music, the food, and so on. But in parallel, they are looking at expanding, setting up smaller, pure takeaway and delivery location across the city to have a full coverage. So as we go, you're going to see that shift happening where more and more, restaurant operators are going into or run their own kitchens, because honestly speaking, the investments for a restaurant to start a dark kitchen or a kitchen is maybe 1/5 of setting up a flagship store, right? So, so for them, that's the future of adopting the both world.
Yeah, well, the cost, the unit economics are very dynamic. The question is, are the unit volumes, in relationship to the unit economics of real estate, some labor, to a certain extent marketing, because you have to kind of shift some of your, it used to be real estate, Main Street cost, over to technology and the third-party, marketplace applications, because you're leaning on them as your storefront now. With all of those, I think there hasn't been enough study on these. Obviously, we've seen some, edge cases that are winning really big. Then we've seen some edge cases that have just not done well. So I'm looking at the comparison here of what's happening over here with all the third-party marketplaces. You've got, you got fee issues, you've got scenarios of availability, you've got competition, a variety of integration problems, vertical integration issues from a technology standpoint that are challenges to the restaurant industry. If you look at the industry continuing to push back, I guess there's two kind of things that are happening here. One, like you're mentioning, is you have restaurants that are in operation today. They have physical plants. Then you have this emerging ghost kitchen and dark kitchen, model that's emerging, but it's not quite there yet in terms of volume. If you look at those two scenarios and the pressures on last mile or third party because of fees, do you see the marketplace starting to reposition away from third-party delivery fees and more to direct takeout or direct-to-consumer platforms to avoid those kind of products? Because I think ghost kitchens, most likely, well, they have no choice. That's the only way you're going to get a marketplace or get awareness, is you got to go through the marketplaces. But for a restaurant who's spending significant dollars in real estate, they're paying for Main Street visibility to get that customer in the door. Do you see the kind of, I guess, in some cases, kind of the switch between the two markets starting to occur in the next few years?
So far, we see that a lot of restaurants are adopting, their own pickup and own solution, and we want in the future, I think that they will adopt that. But if you look at the volume, it's still quite minimal, right? So if you look then, if I look at what our customers are doing, if you look at online sales, maybe 15%, 10 to 15% is their direct channel. A lot of them, the rest is online through marketplace, because that's where the end customer are. However, I think it's still quite profitable model if you run it right, because the bigger issue in running online sales or online in restaurant or dark kitchens is because it's a low margin business, and it has to do with operational excellence, right? So one example is, if you do not use, for example, Deliverect, and you do it with all these tablets, you have an error rate between 5 to 8% when you're doing delivery. What does that mean? So every 100 orders you're processing, you're selling, 5 to 8 you need to refund partially or full. And that could be you're selling something that was out of stock, someone repunched the wrong items, and so on. And that's a massive difference, because that's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And once you adopt automation with Deliverect, we can reduce that by 80%. So if you know that the profit margin of a restaurant is under 20%, reducing, going from, for example, 8% refund rate to 2-3%, it's a massive difference, and really makes a difference between a profit and loss. And finally, I think if you look at normal restaurant, you have indeed an extra cost infrastructure where you have front of house staff, a lot of payoff because you have a renovation and so on. But then if you look at more delivery and takeaway kitchens, investment is lower. You don't have the front house staff, you have less all of that, and it's just operations and food costs. So if you run it well, you can make a quite interesting business out of it.
Yeah, no, we've seen that. We definitely see ghost kitchens and dark kitchens being kind of the trend. I think that's the trade-off, is to what level of percentage they're going to have to pay to third-party marketplaces, because those kinds, it's a different kind of expense or balance sheet of where your your expenses are for your unit economics, because you have much less in real estate. Labor is obviously impacted, facilities costs, all those kind of things come into play. Okay, so if I want to put Deliverect into my restaurant and I'm here in the United States, what kind of fees am I up against with you, and what kind of point of sale system? Let's say that I have Square. Could I turn on Deliverect in Miami, Florida today?
Yeah, you can. We work in the US with a ton of normal restaurants from all the timeout markets in the US to spin to dark kitchens from Muco to Bite. So if you have Square, you can just go to the Square App Store, select Deliverect and turn it on. And our fees are very low in investment, because we really want to help restaurants to enable them to sell online. So during the whole pandemic, we have waived any setup fee for a lot of restaurants, right? And for the rest, we even allowed restaurants to go on monthly plans where it starts at $49 and so on, depending on your volume. So our success
so where's the volume
to the success of restaurants.
Yeah, where's
so
the
for
volume
example,
break?
if you
let's start at 300,000 average unit volume and go. What would a unit cost at 300,000 average unit? So that's like a Subway. A Subway is going to do 300,000 to 400,000.
Well, we're looking at differently. We're not calculating on their, order volume, but really on the number of orders they do, because each time we process it's an order, right?
Okay, so unit orders. Okay, so let's say
for example,
let's go 40 orders a day.
Well, in that case, you're going to be at $69, right? So, and honestly, with the savings we will provide, you're going to have it back in one day, because if you have 2-3 orders that you're not refunding, where you have a happy customer is going to pay it.
No doubt.
Exactly.
Okay, so $69 a month at 60 orders. Let's move up to 100 orders. What happens then?
Well, I think 100 orders, you're gonna reach, going up to the 100, 119, and so on, right? So it's staffed as you grow. But that being said, I think our customers are very happy with that pricing because the savings are incredible for what they do.
Yeah, no, accuracy is going to be a factor. Just the headache of dealing with, the multi-tablet issues. That in its own point is still to a certain extent. I'm assuming your system identifies which platform, from a reporting standpoint, all those kinds of scenarios that you provide to the operator from a data set. What kind of unique things would you provide back to the operator, that would be different than what my third-party operator or third-party devices would give me in terms of data?
It's aggregated data so that you have really the insight of your sales across a channel or in one place. As well, you can look at what modifiers and upsells that works better.
Okay.
We really help you restaurant to increase their profits as well. People don't understand.
You're slicing into POS. You're slicing into the POS data itself, giving me a little bit of the product mix scenarios there. I like that in the sense of being able to understand, because third party, in general, third party and delivery ordering cycles and ordering styles are different than what we see in restaurant dramatically. So that's a very important thing. Are you providing any kind of frequency level data, and are you plugged into any kind of loyalty systems?
So we work with a lot of partners, from stock management, besides point of sale, to loyalty and so on. We've streamlined that data so that you can augment it from one place. And one of the things you mentioned is really important. In restaurants, there's really a different fee structure. It's, unless you're McDonald's, it's hard to upsell your sauces, right? Ketchup asking for $1 or $0.50. But online, it's very common that if you're, buying French fries, you top up by one sauce, you can have a lot of these upsells that provide insane amount of profit because the cost is very low. So having that tool that controls the different sales channels as well monitors the throughput is important, right? Yeah. Because one of the things we also do is we help restaurant to control the throughput. So for example, if you're reopening your restaurant today and you have all the customers sitting, in front of you, you can slow down all your online channels. And when, the customers in the restaurant got their food, you can ramp up again your online sales. So controlling the different channels to increase your output of a kitchen is crucial.
So it's kind of like when you're a gig worker, you got to turn it on and off type scenarios of being able just to deal with the throughput to manage it. Okay, so that's good. This is all good information. When you look at, because throughput is a big factor today, especially in the dark kitchen or the ghost kitchen side of things, are you providing any kind of data for the operator to look at their throughput analysis so they can, deal with staffing scenarios, order management, obviously supply chain scenarios that flow into it based on what's happening from an order flow capacity from the third parties? Do you aggregate that data up?
Yeah, we have a lot of extensive report, but we indeed connect to a lot of external systems, right? So you can use our reporting, or if you are enterprise and you have your own BI engine, we will send the info into your system, or sometimes you have these analysis in your inventory systems or point of sale. So what really makes Deliverect unique is, it's one place where all the data goes, but also we will link up with all your existing systems so that you don't need to worry about, hey, I need data A and data B. It's all going to be automated and normalized.
All right, so Zhong, what are you going to do with that $85 million?
Well, first of all, the world is, it was 65, but the world is a big place.
I thought it was 85. I thought it was 85. Was it 65?
This round was 65. In
this
total,
round was
we
60.
raised over $90 million.
What was it, 18 million last year?
Yeah, 80 million. 18. Yes, so that's a funny story. We did 2 rounds in the COVID. So, we never had a closing dinner with our investors. It's a very special world.
That's interesting, right? It's a Zoom call and a glass of wine. Hey, thanks for the cash. All right. So are you finding more? Right? Are you finding more investors for products like this? I mean, if you look at who's backing, the likes of Uber, long term, I mean, there are some big players in the market. whether you go to Silicon Valley or you're looking out of the Middle East or even in Europe. Where are your investors coming from?
So we have a broad range of investors from European ones as well as global ones, right? So
okay.
This round was backed by Redpoint in the US,
Okay. Yep.
Silicon Valley SaaS investor, as well as partners of DST Global, as DST Global is quite a global fund. So those are big investors that are specialized in our sector, right? So they understand the complexity in the delivery side as well, especially operational wise, as well, software as a service and hospitality. So we're really grateful for these investors. But even more, I think, they really believe in the vision and mission of Deliverect, right? We want to be that backbone of on-demand food. So allowing anyone online to get any order offline to whatever restaurant. So our goal, in a very short time is to provide our solutions to hundreds of thousands of restaurants around the world.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think this is a tool that is going to be needed in a much more urgent situation as we start to see the shift of the restaurant industry, because I do believe we're going to have basically two categories of restaurants: the dark and ghost kitchens that will really become a large number of operations in the coming years, and then the traditional in-restaurant dining, more experiential, less occasion type base. Because once we get past that initial push, the real numbers that I'm tracking and wanting to know is when we get into Q1 of next year, 2022. So we're not quite 6 months away, 8 months away of really seeing the numbers next year. Because if in-restaurant dining growth, because we feel like it's going to grow obviously through Q2, 3, and 4 this year. But I think next year we'll find out if in-restaurant is going to continue to grow. And if it does, and ghost and dark starts to occur, then what I believe is that we are seeing a shift in the whole dynamic of the cook at home. Because if you look in 2019, at least here in the U.S., it was really kind of one of the first years that we had eclipsed over 51% of the food dollar being spent out of the home. That was a big deal. If we start to see a rise in that going up to, say, 60% of the food dollar being spent out of home, that's a $1.3 trillion industry by 2024. That's massive growth, and it's going to be mostly grown in the dark kitchen and ghost kitchen category, I believe, because I don't see we're going to see that much growth in the in-restaurant dining above the 2019, with the fact that we had so many restaurants that closed over the past few years. So lots of numbers shoveling around. So there's going to be a very big need for companies like you. How do you feel like you stand up against the competition right now? Would you say you're an A-class product, or do you feel like you've got a way to go?
I think we are more than A plus class product. I think what we have is very unique because we have seamless partnerships with every large delivery service provider, because we provide enterprise level services as well. All these point of sale detailed integration, so that's quite unique. And to go back to your side of the shift, we don't only provide to restaurant. We work also globally with a ton of CPG and FMCG companies. For example, in the US, but globally, we also work with Unilever for their Ben & Jerry's delivery. So the shift has happened where you want a last minute order. It's not just coming from restaurant, but you can get, at 11 p.m. wherever you are, Ben & Jerry's delivered if you're depressed or, you need some ice cream. So that's where we are moving into, where foods, especially perishable food, from cold beer to ice cream to, Michelin star food, can get in your home at any moment. So that's the future.
One last question. What are your thoughts on the type of last mile technologies that are coming up? I mean, you've got autonomy. I mean, I've listened and talked with the Postmates guys, the guys over at DoorDash, people looking and trying to work on where the next 5 years is going to be. We've had the Flytrex guys on from drone delivery. We've seen a lot of this tech moving quickly. I was very bullish on potential autonomy delivery at some point in that last mile. Now I'm a little bit less bullish because I feel like this is a much bigger hurdle from a technology standpoint that we have to deal with. What are your thoughts on autonomous delivery in general, whether it's be a vehicle, small electric vehicles, or even going into the air with drone delivery?
It's going to be, a combination of a lot of things. Eventually we are living in the future already. So drone delivery and automatic delivery will happen. But on the short term, what I see is the delivery is becoming commodity, right? So for restaurants, so it means that you're going to have delivery service provider today already, where, for example, DoorDash Drive or Uber Direct, you can connect with Deliverect, and we will help you to link up with any rider. It could be the bigger players as well, any local third-party solution. And in the future, that disconnect is going to happen, where you as end customer will be able to order from anywhere and get it delivered. And you don't need to per se know who is delivering. Could be a drone, could be a biker, could be a car, right?
Yeah, I like that. I think you're right. I think we are going to see a mix over the next decade. I kind of had anticipated. I'm a big fan of what Tesla's doing, or used to be. I think now they're running into some problems on delivering full self-driving. So don't get me on that. That's another topic in itself. Listen, Zhong, it's been great having you on the show. Thank you so much for stopping in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. All right, so there you have it, Deliverect, another player in the kind of this culmination of the third-party marketplace for your restaurant delivery systems, and you ghost and dark kitchen operators out there that are trying to essentially build your system on a new platform of delivering food. Hopefully this was one of those episodes that helped you out. If you're listening over on the podcast, make sure and tune in to some of our other shows on the network. Check out Fast Casual Nation. And of course, if you are really tech and love the tech side of things, then you should jump over and watch more of our YouTube channel, which is the Paul Barron Network. You can catch much of our content, much like what we're doing here, on a show called Tech Path. So make sure and jump over there. A separate network really focused on technology. If you have an idea for a show here on the Barron Report, shoot us an email to producers@revernetworks.com. And you can always hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on the Barron Report.